Hello and welcome to our game on this bright and early Thursday morning. I tell you something, Adam, we'll find out who the real loyal viewers are today.
Bright and early, yeah, bright and early.
Bright and early is right. Nice early show this morning. We've got Kieran Carey coming up in a couple of minutes. Obviously in association with our great sponsors, Lottoland. Another good weekend of football, Adam. We just fly through it real quickly. Like it has been the story of the year so far, hasn't it? Like nearly every weekend we've been throwing up at least one nearly instant classic. I was up in Celtic Park the other day and it was mad what was going on. Like it was crazy, and Galway's season was nearly over and they were dead and buried and then they rose from the dead. But that's kind of been the team across a lot of games. And I don't know, particularly ye football purists must be taking some amount of joy out of this. Even lads, whisper it quietly, football is a better spectacle than hurling and this kind of thing going on at the minute as well.
So look, can't we just enjoy them both, Verne? No,
Yeah.
no, the football has been brilliant. And I look, there's a lot of talk at the moment about the round robin, and we know it's the last year of it. They're going changing again next year, and of course, all of a sudden, it's very enjoyable. But I think, okay, there's two reasons the round robin has been so good this year. First of all, there's two stacked groups full of Division 1 teams that are at a very similar level, and we see it in the league. When we see teams at a similar level, we do get good games no matter what. So that's a big part of it. Division or Group 1 and Group 4 are stacked with Division 1 teams, and every game matters because we actually don't know still who's going to come out of those groups. But I think like a massive part of it, and we can't overlook it, is the new rules, and it's because games are so enjoyable. Like I genuinely think last year that like we were wishing games away. We were like in the middle of the round robin, we were going like, Jesus, when is this going to end? Because the games were boring, and we were going. The only reason games were good last year is if it was a knockout game, because that's the only time teams ever went for it. That's the only time we saw any kind of expensive football or teams mixing up their tactics or just going for it flat out. So credit to the FRC. Look, I think it's been a resounding success so far. And like you said, like you were there at that Galway Derry game was bonkers. I'd say just to be at that must have been crazy.
Even like, and Paddy Taddy was saying it after, like we probably even underestimated beforehand, like midfield and your kickouts, everything. Like if you can get, it's so difficult. If you have your hands on the ball, you're in a really good attacking position and you have a great chance of scoring. It wasn't like that before. But then if you can't get your hands on the ball and say you can see the score and then you can see the kick out and then you can see another kick out, and it's like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes passes by, you can't get your hands on the ball. They could have 1-3, 1-4. They could have 6, 7 points between the 2 pointers. Possession is everything now, but in a different type of way, if that makes sense. The primary ball is the key thing, and everything else kind of flows off that.
Yeah, well, before primary possession was everything, but your teams were getting possession 20 yards out from their own goal, and that's how they were getting their primary possession. Now they're getting it around the middle of the pitch, and a lot of the time they're actually getting it off the opposition kick out. So they're facing forward. It's front foot football, and they've automatically got targets inside. So it's been very well planned out by them. Yeah, look, we're seeing a return of high fielders just from Kerry's point of view. Mark O'Shea came on for one of his first games for Kerry the last day, midfield, the Crokes fella, a big tall man, and he absolutely lorded it. He got 4 unbelievable catches and dominated the game. And we're seeing guys like that, you know, maybe wouldn't have got a chance before because they maybe had other attributes that didn't suit the old game. But no, it's putting the ball out there, and you need big guys out there to fetch it and go play front foot football. So it's been very exciting.
Much worry down in Kerry just about injuries and stuff like that. Not a good time to be picking up injuries realistically.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of ways of looking at that. Well, first of all, unfortunately, I think Barry Dan O'Sullivan's injury is a bad one. I think that from what I'm hearing, I was talking to Sean O'Sullivan yesterday, former Kerry footballer, and from what he's hearing, that it could be a cruciate, so he could be out for the year or the season, or the intercounty season anyway, certainly, which is massively disappointed for him if that's the case, because that's a guy now I think he's 29. He's waited a long time to get his chance for Kerry, and he really grabbed that opportunity this year when Diarmuid O'Connor got injured and was playing brilliant football. So it's a massive blow for Kerry, but you'd feel very, very bad for the lad himself. The other ones, like Paddy Clifford, it was kind of a hamstring I think he was struggling with coming into the game. Diarmuid O'Connor, shoulder, and I think his groin was at him as well. That's a fellow who hasn't played a lot of football in the last couple of months, so maybe it's just a case of wrapping him up in cotton wool and hoping he can get through a couple of games in June and July And then the other one was Paul Ganey. It was a shoulder. That was a collision with big Sean Walsh, which took it out of Paul. But see, the thing is now, right, Kerry have a game on Saturday week against Meath. They'd be hoping to win that game, obviously, and finish top of the group. If they can do that, they'll have 2 weeks off then to the quarterfinal. So if it's the type of injury that's going to take 2 to 3 weeks, maybe it is actually, and Sean Sullivan was saying this to me as well yesterday, maybe it is the perfect kind of window to get that 2-week injury if you need 2 weeks to recover or whatever. But look, definitely Kerry going to need all those guys going into June, certainly, if they have any chance.
There would be the bit of worry then, though, that the idea of being undercooked then and lads not having that much game time and sleepwalking into a quarter-final against God knows who you could be playing in a quarter-final realistically.
Exactly, that's a massive thing, because the way the groups are shaping up, Group 1 and Group 2, you could have any team. You could have Donegal, you could have Dublin, you could have Galway. Armagh are the only team out of the equation now for the quarterfinal. So, because they're top of the group, but like you definitely, I mean, you don't want to be saying this, but like, maybe if we get a kind of handier quarterfinal and ramp up then to semi-final. But look, the thing is, look, the way Kerry people look at it, if you're going to win the All-Ireland, you're going to have to beat these teams, and you might as well get the Donegal in the quarterfinal and play them then. If you lose, you lose and you're out. But that's, at least you know then you're not good enough. So, but look, obviously, if you don't have Paulie Clifford and Diarmuid O'Connor in there, and Paul Ganey, who's playing probably the best football he's played in 5 years or more, you're going to be up against it.
Yeah, lots of really, really good games to look forward to next week, all on neutral soil as well. But we'll save that for next week, Adam. I think we have Kieran in the background, so we'll bring him in there now.
Good morning. How's it going? Good to see you. You well?
Cheers, long time no see. You're keeping well?
Not too bad. And yourself?
Good. Looking forward to the weekend, no doubt. Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think that Limerick would, well, maybe you did actually, but very few people thought that Limerick could ever be going for 7 in a row in Munster?
Yeah, I suppose it wasn't a huge surprise, like, really, not to me. But to be fair, it's a huge achievement. It's massive. And I suppose the anticipation at the start of the year, there would have been a lot of speculation about it. But I suppose what's after giving the Limerick supporters confirmation, for want of a better word, was their display the last day. So the fear factor appears to be back.
Yeah. How important is that, Kieran? Just the little thing in the psyche, teams knowing, these boys are on it again. These boys are as hungry, as sharp, as energetic, as enthusiastic as they've ever been.
How important, I suppose, Mike, if you look at before the Cork game the last day, possibly a lot of the talk would have been Cork possibly favourites. And after the first half performance, now I'm going by the first half because their first half was awesome. It was the old Limerick, the old machine. And as I said, they've without a doubt set the stall. The fear factor is 110% back. So I believe that's the consequences to that. It ripples through every other inter-county hurling team in the country.
There's more than a wry smile across your face. And just on that, how much more does that seep into the psyche if they do deliver another big performance, and particularly into the Cork psyche? And let's just say, we're just talking hypothetically here. Let's say Limerick keep Cork at arm's length and win by 6 or 7 on Saturday evening. Then it's like, how can we get close to these lads again? Having beaten them twice last year, they're just a different animal now.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if you look at the two performances, the Waterford game and the Cork game, two totally different performances. And I suppose the first half performance against Waterford, obviously they would have did a diminutional job as well also on Waterford. So my point is, even though coming into the Cork game, you didn't see signs of the machine, you might have seen signs of a bit of vulnerability and frailty. But this particular team and squad, even playing 2 or 3 notches under par, still have enough to cross the line. That's the big worrying part for me for the rest of the teams.
Yeah, no. And that's just actually, Kieran, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but it's mad. I'm doing a piece on it for the paper on Saturday. Kylie is 16-0 with Limerick in finals. He's never lost a final between 21 and senior. Connacht is 14-0 with Limerick, and he's played 20. He's been involved in 27 finals at intercounty level. Connacht has. He's won 24, drawn 2, lost 1. The one he lost was the 2010 All Ireland minor final 15 years ago. how much does that even come into it? Not even from an opposition point of view, but from a Limerick point of view, when you know that you've just always found a way in finals. Geez, that is some, I don't know if you call it a comfort, but geez, it's something nice to have in the back of your head.
Without a doubt, Michael, and you and a lot of your colleagues are getting well paid to find all these stats, right? And thankfully you do come up with all of them, right? But when you hear it verbalized, right, number one, and sit back and say, yeah, when you actually hear the reality of it and the stats that you actually pointed out there, it's a huge indication, number one, how good, how strong, how determined, how hungry, and I suppose how driven the team, John Kiley, Paul Kinnerk, are still. You know, because when you're playing at that level, it's very easy to go into the comfort zone. But I always say, like myself, and I suppose I equate this to club, when you get a taste of winning inter-county championships, senior medals, there's always a taste of more of it. And to be fair to this Limerick squad, like Mike, you know, they're on their eighth year journeying together. So they're not going to give up any crown too easy. But more importantly, they're not going to give up their status, their consistency cheaply to any county at the moment.
Yeah, you know this old saying as much as anybody, and particularly in your line of work, they say one taste is never enough. And once Limerick have gotten the taste of victory, it's like something. It's like, oh, I want this more and more and more. I want to go again. Even I was chatting to Pat Ryan the other day about it. Pat, he was formerly on the Limerick panel. He just said everyone's memories around finals are such positive one. Even partners, girlfriends, wives, family. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of a routine you get into almost as well.
Shit, not awful enough.
You're all right. You're all
I'm
right.
back.
We'll cut out the expletive, Kieran.
I'm back. Go on. My apologies. Go ahead.
Could you hear me there? No, just saying. Even I chatting to Pat Ryan the other
Could
day
you?
for that piece that doing, and he was just saying about even all family memories around finals, partners' memories, wives' memories, girlfriends' memories. They're all so positive around finals as well, aren't they?
Yeah, without a doubt, because there's always something uniquely special about provincial finals, right? And that's not minimising any other provincial final. But I suppose the history that's in Munster hurling, the history that's in the Munster final, it's a touch special to anything else. It's nearly a separate identity to the All Ireland series in itself, without a doubt. That's a given. And I suppose it has that uniqueness and it has that special feeling around it.
Yeah. Just on that as well. The fact that they've got such a good record in finals or whatever. Kieran, 1 second now. I want to see that mug for a second because I think I have the no. I thought I had the same one. Your one is unique in itself. Can you believe it with the record in finals as well? When you consider he went from 73 to 2018 before he won, and like you're beating 5 All Ireland finals during that time. It's not amazing how it's completely flipped now.
Totally, Mike, and not only that, right? And I suppose when I was studying the league games this year, right, and obviously every inter-county hurling team is going to utilise the league to their advantage, and they're going to do it for different reasons. And I suppose the one thing that hit me watching Limerick in the league process, how they were going about their business, right? I said, lovely, these boys are building for 2030. Right? That's all that was in my head. I saw nothing, only build for the future. So, like, that's fine, but you were after mentioning a huge gap there during Limerick's history from 73 to now. And I suppose there is a bit of an onus on John Kiley and Paul Kinnerk and the current management, I suppose, also to kind of set in place either way, whenever they're going to walk away from it, that there is still a strong, mighty squad left there going forward, for want of a better word.
Yeah. John has been pretty adamant about that. Even I think his first interview, I think he did it with Limerick Live this year, and it was all about the future. It was playing trial games. It was unearthing lads or whatever. Like that's not always the case. A lot of the time at county level, and you see lads at club level as well. It's the now. I'm worried about now, and that's a kind of a big thing as well. Like because Colin Coughlin's gotten a lot of time. Aidan O'Connor's gotten a lot of time. Adam English has broken through now. Shane O'Brien has broken through, and there's lots of other lads even on the panel there. It's not just about 2025, and that must be exciting enough too, because while an unbelievable generation is going to go at some stage in the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years, there's plenty of lads there that should be, not saying they're going to be the same, because no team is going to be the same, but they've been exposed to it at least, and they'll be somewhat ready when that time comes.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and in fairness to John Kiley, yeah, I give him credit for it, but I suppose being a Limerick man, I would see that not as a major stroke, because when you've gone through the pain and hurt that we have gone through for years, it's obviously that would be probably the top 3 priorities. We have to make sure that we don't experience what we're after experiencing for the last 30 years in Limerick Intercounty Hurling Limerick. So we need to kind of set our stall. Okay, the winning is fine, and everything goes with it. That's fine, but we need to be building going forward, and that's what they're doing. That's what I saw in the league. I saw nothing in the league only lovely. They're nailing it, and they're getting ready for the next 3 to 4 years.
You must be happy with your nephew's form. How he's in such good form when he has 2 kiddies running around the home, or not even running around yet. I'll never know, but he's flying it at the minute, Keane.
Without a doubt. Now, in fairness, these 2 little kiddies, I give huge credit now to his papa and Nana. They're probably taking serious pressure off him and Dana. Yeah, and that's what families are about, you know. Like, I have a daughter, she's 4 kids. They're here more often than not, you know, and it's tough going in the early years with small young kids. So family is definitely taking huge pressure off him. Yeah, and I think actually myself personally, right, and I suppose my own opinion back in the day when I was lucky enough to receive captaincy, like, you know, you're duty bound at that stage to go to a different level mentally and a different level performance-wise as a captain, you know, because you have to lead by example. Okay, off the field is fine. That's a given. He's always done that. But you have to call the tunes on the field. And when you're calling the tunes on the field as a captain, the rest of the team will follow. And I believe Keane, captain of Limerick, is after elevating his whole mental strength and his whole ability to another level.
Give me examples even from your own playing there, how you had to go to another level. Like, what do you mean even, like, that you're just setting a different standard almost, and that you have to be the one that sets a standard that everyone else can see that this is what we're going for here? Yeah,
and you can do that, actually. You can do that in a nice, quiet, under the radar way, right? And what I mean by that is certain captains can make a lot of unwanted noise verbally, right? But mightn't back it up in the field. But a captain that goes about his business nice and quietly, leads by example, takes the biggest fish in the opposition, babysitting nearly every day, display has gone to a different level. Like, when that's at play, whether you've a squad of 30 or 70, they're automatically going to follow. So I believe, yeah, a captain's role is massive, meaning performance-wise. And I suppose most of the chirping is done with the stick and the hurley and his skill and his ability, and he's doing that.
We all know plenty of lads who like to talk and didn't back it up. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. We might have an off-the-record conversation about that.
You could. Like, I go back to the days, you go in there at half-time, the first half performance mightn't have gone too good, or you might be down or up, but the performance level is fine. Next thing you hear, these scatter awards come from here and here, and I suppose they mightn't have even just lit on their hand once in the first half.
Yeah. Did you actually find that? I often found I had no problem talking. I like to talk, but you kind of feel like you have to be doing your job in the field. You kind of have to be performing to be talking.
Correct, 110%. Like, you know, half-time you need to debrief, analyse your own performance, see where you're at, how you got on. And at the end of the day, right, you know, for me as a captain, right, okay, obviously you have to deliver the goods. So I'm taking that's going to be given. And if something needs to be said in a nice, harsh, loving way, then you're in a position to come out with the bazooka if the bazooka is needed, or else in a nice, cool, calm fashion. Depending, every situation is different.
Harsh and loving are 2 words that you normally don't go together.
No, but you can chastise a fella with love if you do it correctly.
I wouldn't like to be in a dressing room now when your bazooka comes out now somehow, because I'd say they'd be painted all over the room, I'd say.
No, I wouldn't. No, I'd never be personal now, to be fair. I wouldn't, and I'd never be personal at any individual. No, I'd never do that. But I'd probably speak around it without mentioning anybody. Like, and come here, at the end of the day, every player, every performer, whether it's a senior club or senior into county hurling, they know exactly how they've got on the first half and they're sitting inside that restaurant doing a bit of thinking and debriefing. They know whether they're 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. They don't have to be told.
Yeah. Just looking ahead, Kieran, Saturday night, very, very novel, obviously, in the Gaelic ground Saturday evening. Hasn't been a Munster final on a Saturday evening since Waterford beat Cork in the 2010 replay. And I don't know outside of replays if there's ever been a Saturday Munster final before, maybe in bygone years. Just even the psychology around that, like a Saturday evening game, waiting around all day. It's a different kind of routine as well, maybe, for a final, maybe.
It is, and I suppose, like, yeah, without a doubt, like a Saturday, I suppose there's a lot of uniqueness. I've no memory whatsoever of a Munster final on a Saturday evening, right? That's number one. Number two, most finals then in the past, as you know, whether they're 2, 3, half 3 max. So your first part of your day, your first block of your day, it's a lot more manageable. You're in a routine. You're managing that time scale all the time. Now all of a sudden it's been put out to 6 o'clock. So it is a big one. You know, I went for an old sandwich. I think it was 2 days ago. As it turned out, I met Mike Casey and we were chatting around what we're talking about here. And he said, "'Tis a long old wait." He says, I said, "It is, Mike, but sure, all one can do is to do what you usually did and just do that bit longer, you know, at the end of the day." And yeah, it's strange, but it is what it is at the end of the day. And you know, I believe most counties are well prepared for any type of a scenario, any type of a setup. I don't think they'll whinge or bitch about it. They'll get on with it, and that'll be it. Enough will be said. There'll be no more about it, in my opinion.
What was your routine the day of a game, Kieran? Did you go off doing something completely different, or did you think about it much? Did you try and take your mind off a game, or what way would you approach a game?
I suppose leading up to a game, even like I suppose whether it was a first round or any type of finals, my frame of mind and leading up would have been similar. And I suppose back then we had to navigate a lot of this ourselves. And for me, you know, I suppose my frame of mind was leading up to a game. Okay, you're trying to get on with your life, right, and your day-to-day routine, but it's obvious they're going to be flickering thoughts coming into your head in around hurling, in around the match coming up. And for me, I suppose I kept it simple. You know, on a Monday and we're playing the following Sunday, and there was no match going to be won, but it could be lost with me mentally if I wasn't right or if I didn't navigate my thinking. So I just tried to be as calm and as cool as I could, and I'd wait. The day is getting closer to the game. I'd be ramping it up myself mentally. I tend to go quiet, say nothing, go into my own little zone, and come the morning of the match, then I'm in it.
So
But trying to compose myself.
Yeah, so it was a gradual kind of process, because a lot of lads can psych themselves out, particularly before you started getting. Now, obviously, county players are getting great advice and whatever, and they're been told to switch off, and you need to be in the zone when you need to be in the zone. You probably don't need to be in the zone like this on a Monday afternoon getting ready for Sunday or whatever, but you gradually ramp it up. You kind of, you can't think about it too much for too long either, because you can kind of burn yourself out mentally.
Yeah, but even that comment that you said, switch off, like, you know, hitting the switch, and no matter what type of support system they have around them, they're going to find it impossible to switch off. But they can kind of, as you said, I suppose, not to allow the occasion, your thoughts, your thinking pattern to overwhelm you during the week leading up to, because that can be draining. Yeah, I believe you buckets of time that morning really to be cranking it up at you, and even in the trips going to it, you'll be small talking, and then anytime then you're landing near the area, then you're gone to another level, quietness. So I'd be saying nothing. So everybody's slightly different how to go about it.
Yeah. What sort of position do you think Cork are in going into the weekend, Kieran? It's a funny kind of a one, because like when I'm thinking back and looking at their games and analysing them a bit more, now I'm wondering, was there any like residual kind of damage psychologically to blowing the lead against Clare? We didn't really see it against Tipperary because they were up a man straight away and they played some good patches, but they had an extra man. They were blown out of water by Limerick. I would say they stuttered and got over the line against Waterford, but maybe that's all they needed to do at the time. Where do you think they are playing Limerick 3 weeks later now, going back to the scene of the crime? What sort of state do you think they're in?
Yeah, and I suppose everything you said there was accurate, and you can even throw last year's All Ireland final into that
Yeah.
as well. Also, frailty, and like looking at them, and when you see the spells when they do come at various stages of the games, right? I watched them very closely against Clare, and to be fair, I thought they were awesome in the first half, awesome. And in the second half, different ball game. Like, okay, you're down in Clare, you're playing Clare in us, and you'd expect Clare to come back. But there appears to be kind of a track record with this squad of frailty, of slightly watery, or are they mentally strong? Are they mentally strong enough for the real fight? And I suppose they're positioned absolutely perfect now. Munster final, Limerick backyard, got a mother and a father of a hiding 3 weeks ago. We'll either accept that or we're going to flip it. And I suppose, let's see what Saturday night will bring. But either way, I think they still have the capacity to be dangerous. Whatever the result Saturday night, I still believe the two teams will have a big say going forward. That's my own opinion.
Yeah.
They still will have a big say. But this is a massive game. There's an awful lot at stake in this particular game. Okay, the last day there was a lot at stake because I suppose the matches last year, how good Cork were, put a small bit of manners on Limerick, and Limerick then, and I suppose Limerick then were waiting for this one. They answered the call, and I suppose they did it with that, for want of a better word, right? So let's see now. Like, if Cork are mentally strong enough, they'll answer the call. But there's still a question mark there about that.
Yeah, I would have always had lots of belief in Cork that the ability is there, but they've kind of, I don't know, they've kind of stung me a few times down through the years. So I kind of won't believe until I see it, until they get over the line. Team is going back to Leeside. I probably won't believe, but it's an amazing how the narrative is flipped. Cork were All Ireland favourites 3 weeks ago. Limerick were second favourites, and most people are thinking, oh, Cork's time has come. And all of a sudden, it's completely different now. Limerick are kings of the mountain again. They're on top. And Cork have a point to prove again. And listen, maybe that's not a bad place to be because the expectancy has been dampened down and they have to go and prove themselves again now.
Yeah, and to be fair, without a doubt, and leading into the last game, the Limerick-Cork game, there was an awful lot of hype in Cork with past managers, past players. They had them really built up very high. They really kind of ramped it up. And, but in fairness to Pat Ryan, I believe he's done a super job and he has improved players. Tim O'Mahony's a total different player, for the right reason. He's hurling very well. And I just watched him watching him progress in the last few years. Like, they have ability, they have serious players. Where they're probably slightly frail, in my opinion, is the top 2 inches. I believe if they get that area right, then they'll be an extremely, extremely strong force.
When they're clicking and when they're humming, Kieran, they're unreal to watch. And from a neutral point of view, they're unreal to watch. If they're playing against your county, it's not good to watch because you're literally thinking every time the ball goes in here, they can run wreck. But when they are ticking and humming, they're deadly. Like, they're lethal.
Oh, they are, without a doubt. That's why it makes it the challenge so mouth-watering for Limerick. Because, okay, leading into the last game, I was kind of the train of thought, Cork appear to be the only team that has Limerick's number. Likewise, Limerick appear to be the only ones that have Cork number. When Cork come to the party, good, and if Limerick come to the party, consistent, then you have the makings of a classic of all classics. If the two of them are at it, 8 out of 10 performance through the whole team. And that would be something really to witness Saturday night if something like that came or something like that happened.
Yeah, well, recent history would suggest that we're not a million miles off another classic coming. There was 2 classics last year, and they've obviously the game in the Gaelic grounds in 23 when you beat them by a point. I think it was 325 to 130 and knocked them out. You had to win to go through. There's been 3 of the last 4 have been absolute classics. I'll put it to you that way. So there's a
Without
fair
a doubt, without a doubt. And I suppose for Cork, the big one for Cork now Saturday night is, I suppose, mind the ship, nice and steady, and don't get off to a terrible start like they did the last day. Like if there's about 7 or 8 minutes gone in the Munster final and 'tis nip and tuck, then the game will take its own life. Well, like I sensed the last day, when the cornerbacks fell in Aaron Galano and then buried that goal so early. It was kind of, you could feel it. You could feel it and you could sense it off the players. Oh, they're back. Like, and Cork travelled in numbers to that game. I believe it was definitely 50-50. And thankfully, on the day, Cork didn't really give their supporters much to cheer about. And if they did at the start, all of that has a huge impact, I suppose, on the dynamics on the field. So, like, not only did Limerick destroy Cork on the field of play, but it also kept their supporters very quiet because an awful lot of Cork support did travel to that match, to be fair.
Yeah, and that's a massive plus from a Limerick point of view. And if you can do that at the weekend, it'd be a massive plus because once they get going, they would fire, fresh oxygen through you. Kieran, you played centre back for many years throughout your career. Kyle Hayes has kind of gone back into number 6 now, and he looks so comfortable there. And he just, I don't know, like to me, like he's probably the best hurler in the country nearly at the moment and probably has been for the last couple of years, just consistency wise. Just talk to me about what he offers there. I think it's such a comfort blanket to have a lad that can cover the ground he can cover, particularly defensively. Number 1, defensively, going forward, brilliant. But the fact that it's harder to go down that channel now. And you know that this gazelle is going to be coming back after you as well. And there's a fair chance he's going to get back and get some sort of a hook or a hand in or something like that as well.
Yeah, and I hope for his sake now, that he's probably given a bit of time and left that number on his back for 3 or 4 years rather than being shifted here and shifted there. And let's see how special he really is in command in that position. And, he's unique. He's unique in a way you could put him 14, 11, 8, 6, 3, and he'll do a job.
Yeah.
That you be confident that he's hidden a stopgap, he'll do a job. And I suppose he always had that aura, right? But what I really like about him, and it's going back to what I was saying to you a while ago, he goes about his business in a hurling fashion. There's no talk, there's no chirping. He commands respect straight away, and he's done that from day one. And if you have ability to command respect from day one, you will maintain it, and your performance levels will have a huge factor in that. Like, I watched him very closely against Cork now, right? And, I was watching how he was tying up Dara Fitzgibbon. And Dara Fitzgibbon leading into this game was hurling well and going well. And this is no disrespect to Dara, but it was like a boy, it was like a child and a man. He just didn't care about him. Like, he commanded. So he has serious respect, and there's a huge fear factor, I believe, in around him and his ability and his past also that I believe players are bringing onto the field. So, and this all works in favour of Kyle himself. So, yeah, without a doubt, man, he's the one player I would have serious time for him as a defender, as well as you, Lawler, a good time for him as well. But I just think Hayes is ruthless. He defends correctly. He's good gears. He gets back. He's never really chasing to get back because he reads it. He's anticipated. He's there, taking control, taking ownership, and you put your house on him 9 times out of 10, every time.
Last year, Cork went at Limerick's half-back line down in the park, and they went at Limerick's half-back line in Croke Park as well. It's a completely different half-back line now. Burns is the only one playing in the same spot. He'd be at number 5, right wing back. Hayes will be centre back, and now Barry Nash will be wing back. Do you think, how do you think Cork will go at that half-back line now? And the tactic of keeping the ball away from Kyle Hayes in the All-Ireland semi-final, it's very, very difficult to keep the ball away from a centre back, because he's he's covering so much more ground. I think he got 7 possessions in last year's All-Ireland final, and they just did not hit the ball in that wing. And if they did, it was to Declan Dalton, who was standing 50 yards off him. That was one of their main tactics that got so much joy in those 2 games. They're going to have to probably do something different. I don't see them going straight down the throat to Kyle Hayes now somehow.
No, and I suppose if you go back to that time, I suppose everybody knew that Cork were going to come with the same tactic, and they did. And as you rightly pointed out, we've totally different half-back line. Diarmuid is the only regular there. And, yeah, like, at the end of the day, there's 2 things they can do, right? Obviously, not do that because Limerick's half-back line is very strong. Like, if they have someone tough enough and strong enough that doesn't care about Kyle Hayes and has no respect for him, try him in him, because that's the only way you want to rattle him, right? So I don't know about the dynamics in Cork, what way they are mentally, but that's option 1. To be fair to Cork there, Mike, Cork will play it anywhere, really. They're a skillful hurling team, and like their goalkeeper even, Patrick Collins even, right? And I suppose up until the Limerick game, he'd be fairly consistent. Like Pat Ryan has improved him a ton. Like most days when he goes out, he's definitely, gives away 2 or 3 points with his puck outs, right? But huge improvement in him. But that day against Limerick was a bit shaky. So he's going to determine an awful lot of this, like. And he needs to be on it, whatever way they're going to structure, whatever way they're kind of going to come out and implement what they're going to implement. He's a huge part to play in this. So obviously I don't see him. I could probably see him kind of, going down Diarmuid's flank. Diarmuid, I suppose, is due a good one. Of the whole team, when you're watching them for the last few games, like Garrod is kind of back, Morrissey's back. They're all hurling well. Like I was kind of the mindset the last day that Diarmuid was due a big game. So they might target Diarmuid possibly. That might still continue. And they have a load of options that they could play a chart that could come out. You don't know. But either way, I do believe it will take a game of its own if it's tight.
Yeah.
If it's tight earlier on.
Yeah. Any particular match you're looking forward to? Yeah. There's a lot of tasty ones. And do you think Darragh Fitzgibbon might be midfield now, because that maybe didn't work the last day, that they might put him back in the middle of the field, and as you say, go for something maybe ignorant is probably the wrong word, but go for something a bit more ignorant at centre forward. That'll kind of go toe to toe with Hayes, maybe physically in that way.
That's if they have the personality to do that. Well, myself personally, if you're going to run with Darragh Fitzgibbon at 11 again, then there's something seriously wrong. I'm saying that straight up now, because it's a mismatch, really, out and out. And Kyle Hayes is not going to drop his standards Saturday evening. That's a given. So you have to put somebody in there, as I said, that doesn't care about him, no respect for him, and he's willing to take him on, because Kyle hasn't met that animal yet. And that's the only way you're going to get joy, really, because there's a fear factor, as I said, around Kyle's display, performance, and aura. So it's a massive one for Cork how to navigate, how to go about their business. Yeah, there's a good few games. Yeah, I'm interested now to see. Like when I'm looking back at it, there's 2 teams that jumping out at me that in hurling that you can safely say have improved in 12 months, right? Obviously, Tipperary have got the fundamentals right. So have Tipperary improved from last year? Yes, they're on the right road. Kildare is another team. Have they improved? Yes, they're on the right road. And then you're looking at the Leinster final, and you're looking at Kilkenny and Galway, and you're asking yourself the same question. Is this Galway team after improving this year under Micheál Dunno versus Henry Shefflin? I don't know is the answer to that. I haven't seen it, right? And you're asking the same question about Kilkenny. Like, Kilkenny, I suppose, are the one team presently at the moment that's frustrating me, because when you look at their team, when you look at their squad, and when you look at the ability up front and on the line, they're capable of doing anything, but they're just not consistent. At the latter stages of the championship, okay, up to Leinster final, they're good, solid, consistent enough. But when, like the old Kilkenny of old, when they used to come to Croke Park for quarters, semi-finals, you were guaranteed they were coming and there was a performance coming. This Kilkenny side is lacking all of that. But if they had consistency, potentially very good. But I'm still kind of to have the question mark there from this year's Leinster Championship, obviously.
They don't put you to the sword like former
Oh,
teams. Like, and I said it to Derek Ling, and he didn't there after the Dublin game, and he wasn't in love with my comment, shall we say. But they were 16 up, and all of a sudden Dublin were able to get back into this game. Whereas the Kilkenny teams I played against and you probably played against, if they were 10 up, they'd go 15 up. If they were 15 up, they'd bury you. If they got a chance, they'd squeeze you and squeeze and squeeze, and they would not let go until all the air was gone out of you, metaphorically, shall we say. Whereas this team leaves the door back open. And listen, maybe that's an ability thing, and they just don't seem to be able to bring it for 70 minutes or whatever. If they did bring it for 75 minutes in a game, by Jays to be a fair dangerous animal, but we haven't seen it for a while. I'd say we haven't seen it for a long while, maybe even since the 2019 All-Ireland semi-final, when they brought it from the first second to the last second.
Yeah, I agree with you 110%. And the frustration thing is then when you look at the forwards, you're looking at TJ, Donnelly, Keown, Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen, Billy Ryan. Like, there's a few more there. Like, can you imagine the devastation they would do when they come to the party all the time? But they're lacking that inconsistency. And go back even to Kyle Hayes, right? Kyle Hayes' performance level, when they're not at his highest level, he's still a dangerous animal and he's still doing well. Keane Lynch, probably slightly different because he'd have such an impact on the game with his vision and what he sees and his play. But Aaron Gillane, even underperforming, will do good things, right? But for Kilkenny, when they're playing bad, it's bad. The towel is thrown in. There's no bit of, 60 or 70%. Whereas I'd be under the impression in my own head, even when you're not hitting the heights of your level standard, when you're not hitting 9.5, when you're not hitting 9, but for the rest of the game, you still should be involved doing good things, even though you're under par. You still should have an impact on the game, even though you're not going to the level you usually do, is what I'm saying.
There's a real skill in that, though, Kieran, isn't there? And maybe
there is, Mike. There is, yeah.
It's only something you get with experience and time. It's basically what you're saying is that your bad is still good.
Correct. That it's still effective.
Yeah. Talk to me about your own career. Like, that's something that's difficult to do early when you're young. Maybe it's when you get to a maturity where you're able to think, when you're in the game, it's going away from you, and you're kind of like, I need to do something here, or I need to win a free, or something needs to happen. But a lot of those Limerick lads, they do always perform at around a 7 at least, and that's the kind of basic. But with Kilkenny, sometimes lads are fleeting between an 8, a 7, a 6, a 5, and 9.
Yeah.
If they're able to get that forward line, and I always look at the Kilkenny starting 15. If they perform consistently and they get 7.5, 8 out of 10s out of most of them in a given day, they would be so difficult to beat. It's just the dips, and it's even the in-game dips that are letting teams back into games that they should never be in. And it's only happened in the last, I'm thinking back to when they played Dublin in the Leinster Championship in 2020, they were 16 up. Dublin got back level. They won. Kilkenny won by 1. In the All-Ireland semi-final, they were up by 9 against Waterford. Waterford won by 4 or 5 in the wind-up. That's an inconsistency and a worrying dip that teams teams think we're still in this. Even if we're 10 down, we're still in this. They're going to be dips. These lads aren't going to be, it's not going to be consistent graph the whole way through.
Yeah, and if you look at Tipperary, and I suppose you're 110% right. There is a skill in that, and it's a bit of an experience. But if you have the fundamentals right, number one, they're the main ones. And if that's right, then you won't allow yourself, if you have standards set for yourself, you shouldn't allow yourself go towards 6 or go towards 5. But for some reason or other, there is players out there that allow that to happen. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And maybe it's something that only happened that, the old horse saying that the penny is dropped. Sometimes the penny only drops with certain lads when they're 27, 28, and all of a sudden, I'm even thinking of someone like Joe Canning, right? Unbelievable player. But when he was off in the early, I'd say in the first 10 years of his career, if he didn't play well, he didn't play well. Whereas I'm thinking the last 6 or 7 years of his career, there was rarely a game where he didn't, even when he was off, where he didn't dictate a game or have a massive say in a game. It was like the penny dropped, and he was like, I can do these things. And all of a sudden, people would say that he was dragging Galway by the scruff of the neck in the early stages of his career, to a point and in certain games. But when he wasn't even playing that well in games for the last 5 or 6 years, he was pulling them along. That's the way I would look at it. It's always like the penny had dropped.
Yeah. And I suppose, in fairness, right, as you're getting older, you're getting wiser and maturer. So automatically, your whole train of thought, your movement, you're going to change in accordance to your legs. You're going to change in accordance to your wisdom. You know, that's an automatic transition. And if one is doing that, then your game is changing also. But if you look at now, and you're right, but if you take Adam English now, right, and I suppose he's the one player that I'm watching very closely. Like, and you're looking at past players and players who come into a setup and come into a team, and how long it actually takes to transition into an intercounty hurling team. This guy is after doing it fairly quick. He's after finding his home fairly quick. And I think he's actually hurling, I suppose, 5 or 6 years down the tracks already now. So he deserves huge credit for that.
In the heel of the hunt, and when the push comes to shove, how do you see Saturday evening going?
I'll be honest, I'm looking at the Gaelic Grounds now. The Gaelic Grounds to me now is similar. It's similar to Brian O'Connell's day with Munster, what Thomond Park was to a lot of teams. And I think Limerick have that kind of a fear factor in the Gaelic Grounds. I can't see but a Limerick win.
Okay, that's fair enough. On the Leinster final, Kieran, by the sounds of things, you're not totally sold on Galway yet.
I'm not. And I suppose, listen, they have to sell.
I'm just reading between the lines there.
They have to sell it to me. And come here, and I suppose I'm basing my opinion on what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing this year. Their Leinster Championship matches, their first match of the season, up to this weekend. I'm judging it on that. And like traditionally, like have Galway made a huge impact in the Leinster Championship since they kind of moved over to Leinster Championship? I don't know. I think there's a bit of a doubt there. And I suppose it isn't helping Kilkenny. We're talking about the Kilkenny forwards there, right? And I suppose if they had opposition for the last 2 or 3 years, similar to Limerick and Cork, then you'd have a fair idea where potentially could bring its forwards. You know, hard to call it, being honest with you. I believe, I'd be edging towards Kilkenny. No, having said that, even Galway, I can't think of the guy's name who was cornerback. I think it was in fairness to me, I don't know. He's doing a bit of tweaking. He's doing a bit of switching. But ultimately, it's going to come back to the loyal guys who are consistent. The likes of Mannion and have to come to the party. I have a blank with my man Conor forward, man.
Conor Whelan? Yeah,
Whelan. Like it's Whelan should be improving now and getting better, similar to what Joe Canning was doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's at a place now, like, he has to come. Their big guns have to come if they're going to have any chance. And I just haven't seen it yet, unless I see it for the Leinster final. Like, hard to call it, Mike, but if I was to put my head in the chopping board, I'd be edging towards Kilkenny, just about.
I do think Galway have added a decent bit to Leinster, but to say that they've only won 3 Leinster titles since they came into Leinster in 2009, that was 12, 17 and 18. Like, to say that Galway haven't won a Leinster title since 2018. And just on something you mentioned there, because I was chatting to a fellow Munster man during the week, and he reckoned that Kilkenny were actually doing themselves a disservice by being in Leinster. He reckoned that they would be a much better outfit and they would go to another level if they were playing, and just say it's obviously hypothetically, but if they were playing Clare every week, if they were playing Limerick every week, if they were playing Cork every week, people look at it differently. If Kilkenny beat you in an All-Ireland semi-final and an All-Ireland final, it's like, oh, they were well rested and fresh coming into the All-Ireland semi-final. If they're beating an All-Ireland semi-final, they weren't tested enough coming into it. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think for long term, even, I'm even probably thinking of Kilkenny underage wise, they haven't in the last decade. I think the only All-Ireland they have is the under-20 All-Ireland that they beat you in by a point when Cottle O'Neill wasn't allowed to play. So like everybody loves the Munster Championship, but maybe some teams will probably be maybe the championship as a whole would be better served if provincials were played earlier and it was a mishmash of, you know, 2 groups of 5 with Limerick, Kilkenny, Galway, Cork, and somebody else, and then another 5 the other side. What, like, from a Kilkenny point of view, you know, is the way the Leinster Championship is at the moment, is it doing them much of a service?
Yeah, and I suppose Kilkenny, I'd imagine they would see themselves as kind of taking ownership of that every second year now, right? So they have their own history around that, which you made a huge valued point. Like 9 times out of 10 in Munster, you know, it is pretty rare you're going to have 3 teams poor. 9 times out of 10, they might be underperforming, a bit of transition, but it's hugely competitive every year. It was always in my day, and it's still the same. You can't have that same conversation about Leinster. 9 times out of 10, Kilkenny are going to be there. I didn't realise Galway is only 3, so that tells its own tale. You might get a blast from Wexford. Dublin, you're looking at from a distance, you're saying, right, this team has serious potential. You can see it in matches. But inevitably, it's the same old story again. Offaly are coming. So it doesn't, obviously, it isn't as competitive as Munster. So if it isn't as competitive as Munster, is it going to have defects to certain inter-county teams? Sure, that's self-explanatory.
Yeah. Just a couple of quick ones on the Leinster final. You're a big fan of Hugh Lawler, obviously. He's probably going to maybe track Conor Whelan. It'd be very, very interesting to see who Kilkenny send after Cottle Mannion, because they can't allow him to float around the pitch and dictate games as he has been doing. Maybe Mikey Butler will go out, or maybe Mikey Butler will pick up Conor Whelan. But there's some nice little kind of matchups there as well. From a Galway point of view, they are in a nice position coming into this, in the sense that they were beaten by 12. It's a good while ago. It's probably 6, 7, 8 weeks ago now. They have a nice little point to prove, similar to what Cork have coming into the Munster final. And even all 3 finals this weekend have the same narrative. Laois were beaten 11 points by Kildare 3 weeks ago. Meet them again in the Joe Mack final. Galway were beaten 12 6 or 7 weeks ago. Play Kilkenny again. Cork were beaten 16 3 weeks ago. Play Limerick again. So you have a nice quick chance to like forget about this and blow it out of the water and eliminate it from history almost.
Yeah, without a doubt. Perfect opportunity for the 3 teams. So, you know, they all have their own, I suppose, bit of motivation factor. That's fine. But I suppose, Mike, with the modern game, it's about performing, it's about performing, it's about performing. Some managers wouldn't utilise any of that, and some might, you know, because it's kind of a bit like computerized at times. But I believe there's still a space there. You have to be hurting from a hiding. And if you're not hurting, then you shouldn't have the jersey like. And you need to put that right. And if you're not thinking like that, then it won't happen. Yeah, Mannion's hurling very well. Mr. Consistent now, to be fair, all the time. Yeah, and the reason you mentioned Hugh Lawler, the reason I'd have a lot of time for him, right? He's the one defender out there that I see that's anticipating and taking chances, right? You know, he'll take a chance. Okay, if he sees someone hitting the ball, he's gone. Whereas a lot of defenders there now, they're waiting till the ball comes, forward is running, next thing the penny drops, I must go now. So I like Lawler, he anticipates, and, you know, anytime there's a big gun in around him, he does the job. You know, he has serious self-belief in his own ability, and, you know, he's oozing with confidence. And I just like the way he goes about his business. But, yeah, mouth-watering games the weekend, Mike. Really looking forward to all of them. You know, obviously hoping that Limerick will jump the fence. Obviously expecting a much more manly performance from Cork. That's going to be on the cards. But Galway and Kilkenny, mouth-watering. Looking at Kilkenny forwards, if they come to the party for the hour, they'll take stopping.
Yeah, just lastly, Kieran, on the Joe Mack final, you mentioned Kildare. Kildare have been the story of the year so far. Like, it's an amazing jump. Like, they could make the jump of all jumps here, going from 3rd tier last year to potentially 1st tier in 2026. They're going to get a preliminary quarter final either way, which will be a mad occasion. Against they're going to be playing either Tip or Dublin, which will be deadly. And I know I'm not really mad about these preliminary All-Ireland quarterfinals, but that would be unbelievably novel. It would be some story if they won the Joe Mac and we're playing Lee McCarthy hurling next year.
Unbelievable. And do you know what? It's possible, number one. Would I be surprised, number two? No. I believe they're good enough to do it. But, like, I'm looking at Kildare and you're looking at Dublin. Like, there's a massive pick in Kildare and a massive pick in Dublin. Like, Dublin Intercounty Hurling, they should be contesting every second year a Leinster title. And it isn't the case at the moment, so it's something they need to look at. But I believe Kildare geographically has such a huge pick and a pull from potentially could be very good in time. If the correct resources, the correct thinking and the correct manpower was around them, you'd be very surprised where that might bring them.
Yeah, just lastly, Kieran, there's been a good bit of talk. There's obviously counties gone now. Wexford are gone, Clare are gone, Waterford are gone. Offaly are obviously gone as well, but we're happy enough with our lot just to stay up in the first year. Some talk about 4 coming through Munster and this kind of crack, 4 coming out of the round robin. What do you think a county's been gone this early? And, you know, there's somewhere been over before it started. And like, what would you think of 4 coming out of Munster and potentially diluting it? Or what's your, what is there a happy medium here that we can find? Or does it have to be ruthless and does it have to be quite cutthroat?
Probably it doesn't. And you brought her up a while ago, and actually I didn't answer because I was talking about Hugh Lawler. You were talking about the Munster Championship. If you had them early, then could you have a mixed match, put 5 in, or could you kind of have it a kind of a similar to an Open Champions League? I believe we're going there, like, you know, at the end of the day, because it's all about playing. You know, I suppose, listen, 2/3 of my career was play Tipperary first round beaten, gone for 12 months, right? Those days are gone. Do you know what I mean? So you don't want them coming back. You want our players to be playing as long as they can. And if there's a group of 5 or a group of 6, there's 6 games straight away. Do you know what I mean? So after that, into sink or swim, just totally up to you then on your results and on the table where you're merited or where you go. So I believe, yeah, would I be open to that? 110%. Okay. And it's probably going that way. Like, we're 2025, it has to go that way, Mike.
Yeah. Lastly, Kieran, the Munster Senior Hurling final tickets are now 50 quid. Are you a Gavin James fan?
No, I'm laughing here when you're saying lastly, Kieran. You said lastly about 10
You know my form too well, Kieran.
I know your form, Mike, and I love it, man. Am I a Gavin James fan? Come here. I'm anyone's fan at any given moment of time if it's kind of floating my boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, come here. The tickets are there. Yeah, there's a bit of a huge demand for tickets at the moment. We never discussed it. Huge demand. There's the world of people looking for tickets, and even, you know, I know a good few people who usually get a certain amount from the same regulars all the time. It's after dropping 2. So there's a huge demand there, right? And but at the end of the day, you know, I believe everybody who usually go to games consistently will be looked after. You know what I'm saying? And I'd be hoping to win.
But you're just on that 50 quid and going up a $5. I just think we're squeezing and always looking for more. And I wouldn't be a big fan of it. Like, and I do think we're going down the line of, listen, people are going to come anyway, and we'll charge whatever, and they'll keep coming. That's the GA thing. They've always come to matches. I'm not a fan of it at all. I think we're always looking for more, and I don't think we're giving more, shall we say? Because I even had this conversation with lads before. Like, the facilities at matches are terrible for spectators. Toilets usually very bad. Shops are waiting for an hour to get a coffee, for a hot dog or whatever it is, and I just think we're always looking for more, and I honestly think we're giving people less. The spectacle on the field is unbelievable. Outside of that you pay what you've always paid for that, but we should be getting more outside of the game for the whole experience if you keep charging more and more and more.
God, you're getting very cranky with your old age, aren't you? No, but come here. You're right, but Mike, the modern game, right? It's a game of attraction, and like, now more so than ever in every county, right? It's a huge family event. So when it's a huge family event, you're talking about a family of 3, talking about a family of 7, or you're talking about a family of 9 going to 8 games and going to all the games because they're young guys, the young girls are playing camogie, playing hurling within their clubs, and they want to go to see their stars. So, like, if anything going forward for provincial finals, if anything, what you should be doing instead of going that way, it should be down here.
Yeah, because like with the round robin, there's so many games. Like the cost
There
is
is,
like,
that's my point.
we're paying this week, and we're paying this. If your team goes well, we're paying it again next week, and next week, and next week. If a minimum of 4 games, hopefully you'll have 7 or 8 games. But it is a massive cost. Yeah. And listen, Kieran, I suppose why I'm cranky is I realise that this is going to be me in a few years. I'm going to be carting a few along with me, and I'm trying to do it at this stage. But I do think it's important to have the conversation because there's a lot of people been hurt in the pocket. And let's call a spade a spade. Everything costs more and nobody has been paid more. That's the way I'll put it to you.
No, Mike, you're 110% right. Actually, you don't want you to be very strong. It's a disgrace. But the bottom line is you painted the picture there, right? Most families go into games, at the end of the day, by the time they drive them, by the time they get there, pay for the grub and the ticket on top of it. So as I said, bumping it up isn't going to help the situation. And if the GA want to become more popular and spoken about in a good fashion, which I presume they did, then, if anything, do the honourable thing and drop it down a touch because it's all families mostly who are travelling to matches week in and week out. And as you said, the round robin. And they'll continue to do it. That's the scary thing about it. If this cranks up again, a loyal family, GA family that loves the game will stay going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there needs to be a middle point met really at the end of the day.
No more lastly, Kieran. Thanks very much for your time.
No more what?
No more lastly. Lastly is gone. I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Okay, great to see you, man. Mind yourself. Good day.
Great to chat to Kieran as always there. 3 great finals to look forward to this weekend, in fairness. Munster final. I know we're probably talking a lot more about Limerick now, and that's probably natural just because of that performance against Cork. But you'd imagine Cork are going to come with something really, really strong. And while, Kylie and this Limerick team are going for whatever it is, 17-0 in finals, imagine what it would do for the Cork psyche if they're the ones that are able to end that sequence, that winning sequence in finals, and get the second leg of the Rebel treble up and have the league won and then win Munster, that to be straight into an All-Ireland semi-final. So the carrot is absolutely huge for Cork. Expect them to bring a big performance into the Gaelic grounds and beat Limerick in the Gaelic grounds. Like, Jesus, I couldn't imagine the psychological bounce that you would get if they're able to break all those kind of barriers and smash them. And if they're able to win a Munster title in the Gaelic grounds and end the 7 in a row, which it's mad to even be talking about 7 in a row. I think it was James Daly said earlier, it's obscene to be talking about 7 in a row, and it really, really is. But that's the position this Limerick team is in. They're going breaking their own records. And if Cork were able to take them down, I think they'd get some hop from it. I don't expect Limerick to be at the levels they were at the last day. I expect them to be very good. I don't expect Cork to be as bad as they were the last day. It'll be somewhere in between, but I would still be expecting Limerick to come out victorious. In the Joe Mac, which we haven't talked about much, I just think Laois are coming into this final in an unbelievably good position, completely under the radar. All the talk is about Kildare, and rightfully so, because we're all so hungry for another team to be at hurling's top table. But it's a dangerous position for Kildare. There's a lot of maybe expectancy now. There hadn't been maybe any expectancy up until this point, but they're expected to deliver a big performance. Laois were beaten in the Joe Mac final last year. I have to say, it's like Tommy Fitzgerald has done a great job. He came in, obviously, in unfortunate circumstances with Darren Gleeson having to step aside because of illness. He was without Ross King, and the Rowland stepped away during the league. Willie Dunphy, I don't think he's involved either. Don't believe Chad Dwyer is involved any longer. He won't be involved for the final on Sunday either. So there's been a fair turnover of really, really experienced bodies there, but he's got them to exactly where they wanted to be at this stage of the year. Relegation to Division 2A was not a positive, obviously, earlier in the year, but he was behind the 8 ball. He started a lot later than most other managers. They're in a really good spot now. I expect Laois to bring a huge performance. And I think Laois might actually come out on top on Sunday. I just think it'd be really interesting to see if Kildare can back up the hype now, because they probably weren't expected to be here, and Laois have a lot of experience at this level. And Tommy Fitz was obviously involved under Eddie Brennan when they won the Joe Mac in 2019. And I just think they're in a really, really good spot coming into Sunday. James Duggan in great form, Dermot Conway in brilliant form, Pod Delaney in very, very good form as well. So, and they'll have the bit between their teeth. I think it was 420 to 118 when they played in the group stages. Maybe there was a surprise element from Kildare. There'll be no surprise on Sunday. I think Laois should be ready for him. Expect a belter of a game in the opener, but I think Laois might come out on top. And in the Leinster final, I'm nearly worried saying it, because when you think they're going to come and deliver something, maybe they invariably kind of let you down. But I do think there's a big performance brewing from Galway. They bounced back brilliantly from that defeat in Nolan Park at the start of the year. They've been really, really good since, in fairness. Like, listen, they've probably only done what you'd expect them to do. They've beaten all the teams maybe that you would expect them to, but they kind of kept Dublin pretty much at arm's length the last day, put up a big score, 29 points. Cotton Manning's in the form of his life. Conor Whelan's kind of playing a different type of a role. I'm not sure, you wouldn't be 100% sure about the fitness of Adrian Mullen for Kilkenny, even though he said he's fit and raring to go. He's been carrying knocks, hasn't played that much game time. Interesting to see what Kilkenny do at number 6. Adrian Mullen played centre back the last day. It was the first time there. Richie Reid was under pressure against Dublin. They've tried Mikey Carey there. They've tried David Blanchfield there. They probably haven't really set on a number 6 since Brian Hogan retired, realistically. They'd love to have Hugh Lawler at 6, but they can't afford to move him away from 3 because he's such a safe pair of hands there. I think Galway might just about get the job done and stop the 6 in a row. But it's funny, if you're looking for what team is definitely going to show up and be consistent and deliver a performance, you'd have to say that's Kilkenny. But I just think there's something coming in Galway. Even though they're going to be without Derek Fahey at the minute anyway, unless there's an appeal gone in. Éanna Murphy has plenty of experience, in fairness, and he'll probably slip into the number 1 position. And in the Tailteann Cup, we have 4 preliminary quarterfinals this weekend, the top of which is Westmeath and Laois. Probably not too many people thought that they'd be meeting in a preliminary quarterfinal. I'd be expecting Westmeath to just about come out on top. But yeah, really exciting week. 4 football games, 4 big enough football games, 3 huge hurling games. And we'll be back again next Thursday at 4 o'clock to review all the action and look forward to what will be a massive week of football action. So we'll chat to you then again. Huge thanks to our sponsors, Lottoland. We'll see you again next Thursday at 4 o'clock. Enjoy all the games this weekend.